we become increasingly divided, and we really have to figure out how to work with each other in a respectful way.
And so what we're trying to do is create this safe space where people can disagree, but we exercise the muscle of really getting to the heart of the matter without denigrating one another.
When you humanize the other party, it's hard to get as angry with them as you might otherwise get.
I want to know if, having been on the ground doing this work, meeting a lot of people who differ over time, you really believe and embrace that in fact, there's more that unites us than divides us.
I actually know that to be true.
Then sit around, eat some home-baked goods that my wife sent for us, and Joan's hospitality, and realize, oh, these are great people on the other side.
Production of Immense Possibilities is made possible by the generous support of the Earth and Humanity Foundation. People Solutions, providing a space for finding solutions. Cliff Bar and Company, working to create a healthy, more just and sustainable food system. Deschutes Brewery, bringing people together over beer and food since 1988. The Ashland and Medford Food Co-ops and Rogue Credit Union. The Medical Eye Center, Elizabeth York, and these additional members of the Immense Possibilities Community Builders Circle.
Welcome to our weekly visit with people who are creating immense possibilities for healthy communities and solutions to all kinds of challenges. We're calling this episode, Can We Talk? And these days, it might be a more troubling question than it seems. Yes, we can talk to people who mostly agree with us, but what about all those people out there who don't, who, no matter what your politics or social views, see the world very differently from you? There are a lot of them, and no matter who we are, we tend to have problems engaging them in very productive ways. Since this program began, we've been interested in people trying to connect folks across the political divides, beginning with this episode in 2012 with leaders of the Occupy and Tea Party movements.
A big thing to hear out of the Tea Party that I would like to hear that I haven't heard would be moving money out of politics. And whether we talk about that on a state level or federal level, I think both, obviously.
They went out and they polled like 200 people at an Occupy movement, and they said 65% of the people that were polled believed that government ought to be there to guarantee affordable health care, college education, and a secure retirement. That was 65%. Now, again, if that's true, I absolutely am against the Occupy Wall Street movement, at least as to those principles. Okay. The other thing that they did say, or at least that I saw, was that they are also against corrupt politics and that sort of thing, and I would absolutely agree.
And I think both groups are saying the same thing. There's too much power wherever it's accumulated. We need to bring that back down to the local level to where we're being heard, and however we control our federal government and decide to do that, that's the key, is citizen involvement and the type of discourse that's going on today, to where we're exchanging meaningful dialogue with respect.
Since that episode, a few groups have emerged to sustain and strengthen respectful conversations. Two that are growing in impact and influence are Living Room Conversations and the Coffee Party.
Looking at our political dynamics, we become increasingly divided, and we really have to figure out how to work with each other in a respectful way. Living Room Conversations are a project to help people talk across partisan divides about any issue that is important to them in their community or in the country.
I was introduced to Joan. We just started dialoguing, and she brought up the idea of Living Room Conversations, which was immediately appealing to me.
My conservative friend thought that I should meet the founder of the Tea Party, and that if the two of us could get along, that would be powerful.
I brought a couple of my conservative friends, and she had a couple of her liberal friends there, and we had a fantastic conversation.
There were ground rules that were set and questions that we agreed on ahead of time.
Political issues, religious issues, gun rights issues, anything can be fodder for conversation.
At our core, our values are very, very similar. We all want fairness. We want our communities to thrive. We want our families to do well.
When you humanize the other party, it's hard to get as angry with them as you might otherwise get.
I am hoping that individuals and organizations take the Living Room Conversation format and use it with whatever issues they care about. Then we want to take what we learn, we share it online, and we make it possible for hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people to have conversations.
6 people with very different political perspectives walked away realizing that the folks on the other side are not the enemy.
When you sit down with people and really talk, you can find ways to work together.
And joining me now are Debilyn Molineaux, who is National President of the Coffee Party and a Managing Partner of Living Room Conversations, and Jeanene Louden, who is National Treasurer of the Coffee Party. Welcome to you both, and thanks for coming to the program.
Thanks, Jeff. Pleased to be here.
Debilyn, tell us what Living Room Conversations is.
Living Room Conversations is this amazing, small, intimate conversation tool where you can gather with a co-host who has a different belief or perspective than you do, and each invite a couple more friends over and follow our conversation guidelines to have this really deep and meaningful conversation that you don't normally get to have every day.
And there's rarely bloodshed.
Never bloodshed. And it really just helps people guide the conversation so that it stays very positive. It helps people find common ground, and they end up at the end of the evening usually not wanting to leave the party. Part of the magic of the conversation guidelines is actually that we don't solicit opinion up front. We actually talk about, what do you want for the future? What are your hopes and dreams? What do you want for your community? And by the time you get through that round of questioning and everybody responds and answers, you actually like everybody in the room already.
Or at least recognize something of yourself.
There's similarities. There's a community sense of the conversation already happening.
Jeanene, would you tell us something about the Coffee Party, please?
Absolutely. There was a time in our recent history when people were all of a sudden very polarized, there was a lot of vitriol in the political conversation, and it was like very distressing to many of us. And so the founder of Coffee Party did a post and basically said there's got to be a better way for us to deal with the very important things that we're faced with as a country. And it caught like wildfire. It was shocking to see how many people actually felt the same way. And we're looking for a way to speak to one another, a way to interpret what was happening that was not so dangerous and threatening and alienating.
There are some cliches around this, or they sound like cliches. The main one being, you know, there's more that unites us than divides us, and there's more we agree on that we don't. And some people roll their eyes hearing that, and they go, kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya. And I want to know if, having been on the ground doing this work, meeting a lot of people who differ over time, you really believe and embrace that in fact, there's more that unites us than divides us.
I actually know that to be true. One of my favorite examples of this is that I was sitting next to a Pentecostal filmmaker, and we talked about religion and God and what our spiritual beliefs were, and we touched on abortion, like all these things that you're not supposed to talk about, right? And then we got to this point where he said, I asked him, why can't you respect my beliefs? Because I'm really curious. Like he kept hammering at me like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And what he said out of that was that if you're not saved from hell, then I haven't done my job. And that just like clicked something in me. It showed me that, one, yes, there's a lot of work to do, but number two, that people who can be open-minded and look at things from multiple perspectives can find a lot that we have in common. We actually were very much in sync on spirituality and the meaning of God in our own lives through our different paths. And I think there's an element of social trust that has been eroded over the last 40 years, that having these type of intimate conversations and being vulnerable to changing my mind will help other people be open to changing their mind, and it builds and develops that relationship so that we can move forward together.
So you're trying to rebuild that trust in the context of a living room with a few people.
Absolutely.
There has to be some kind of vulnerability in order to sort of put down those curtains, or there has to be some way of actually caring what you think. And in order to actually care what you think, I have to look again at what I think. There are so many things we could disagree about that ultimately, you know, don't impact the world, don't impact each other, don't impact whatever. And yet somehow there's been this elevation of, it's like sensitizing some wound or something, and now everything
well,
is
if I give an inch
important.
on anything, I'm going to strengthen you and weaken me because you don't care about my best interests?
Well, or just everything feels dangerous.
Right.
You know, so there is no such thing as a disagreement that isn't dangerous or something. I mean, this is like the mood we deal with. What I find is it doesn't take much compassion for that wall to start coming down with most people. And so what we're trying to do is create this safe space where people can disagree, but we exercise the muscle of really getting to the heart of the matter without denigrating one another, without, it's not an I won this, you won that one.
Most of the times we don't really listen. We're actually like arguing in our head about what we're going to say next.
Rehearsing our response.
or we're just saying, nope, that's nothing it, or we're blanking out, you know. But it's there's not very many people that truly listen. And so practicing living room conversations is a practice of listening to someone else and finding out and using that curiosity to see what we have in common. But really making a dedication to say, I want this to be part of my life. I want there to be more peace in the world. And I'm going to do that by starting with myself.
What is hardest for you two personally when you participate in these conversations?
I find that when I'm in a reactive mode, I have to recognize that in myself and then find what am I curious about. I mean, this is like my personal tip is like, they must have a really good reason for that, and I wonder what it is, and start asking and inquiring, and so that I can learn.
Tell me a story from a living room conversation that really gets to the heart of what this work is.
So starting in January of 2013, Joan Blades, who's the co-founder of Move On and a co-founder of Living Room Conversations, co-hosted in her living room in Berkeley, California, Mark Meckler with the Tea Party Patriots. And they each brought a couple more friends together to talk about crony capitalism.
But we had this extraordinary conversation where I brought two friends and Joan brought two friends and sit around, eat some home-baked goods that my wife sent for us and Joan's hospitality and realize these are great people on the other side.
During the course of that conversation, they also discovered they had a lot in common about how they felt about the too big to fail bank system and about criminal justice reform. And as a result of that, Joan got really curious about criminal justice reform and started connecting with people all over the country. And that led her to a place to meet up with some folks at the Arnold Foundation who wanted to put together a meeting in D.C. with people who were interested in criminal justice reform.
And in fact, there is legislation in the Congress right now which
Absolutely.
may have come out of those meetings. Huh?
Yes. So
just by having this one living room conversation 3 years ago, there has been an emergence now of other organizations and other groups who are doing criminal justice reform work as well.
What do you think you've learned, Debilyn, in the years you've been doing this about well-intentioned approaches that don't work so well? We may as well skip.
Oh, you would give me that question. I think anytime somebody comes up and says, I have the answer, or we can save the world if everybody will just follow me, that we need to stop and take a look for just a second, because there's a lot more ego involved than there is connecting with each other. And what I have found in the world is that so many of the folks that have the answer, they're really smart people and they're really well-intentioned, but they're not open-minded and they're no longer curious about how can we all do this together. They just think they're the hero because they fixed it for us. And so my response is that I think we need to stop fixing things and start working together, because the solutions will come out as we work together.
And anything about educating the other to the error of their ways is probably not real fruitful, fair to say.
Educate yourself is fingernails on the chalkboard to me. It's like wrong place to start.
It's you're dumb. You're dumb, I'm smart.
It's denigrating. And it's not honoring the dignity of us as people and what our intentions are. And so the work that we do is actually about dignity restoration at its real base level. How do we restore dignity to each other so that we can have a conversation?
And have I also heard you use the phrase the superpower of curiosity?
Yes. I did a little mini 5 or 6 minute talk on the superpower of curiosity because engaging that is how we actually open up to each other.
So we need some curious men or curious women action figures or something like that.
Yes.
There's an opportunity there.
Merchandising. Got it.
We sit here right now in the midst of a really revved up time. Some people say it's unprecedented. Maybe if you look at history, there have been times like it. But people are screaming and shouting and upset, a lot of people. And I'm wondering if the current times, you know, with one person particularly on everyone's lips and minds, has you more concerned and discouraged about this work, or if you see opportunities here that may not have been here before?
There are a lot of people who feel like they have been left out of our current system. And they're expressing, you know, Donald Trump is kind of the personification of who they are right now and who they want to be. They want to be a winner. They want to feel that again. And our work it doesn't disavow their feelings or their anger, but it does help more people come to our work. What we see when people come to either coffee party or to living room conversations is that they're tired and they're exhausted and they're done being angry. It's really hard for people when they're in that kind of excitement of anger and they're finding their tribe and getting reinforced that they're right. It's really hard for them to like even be open to have some curiosity about something different. But there comes a point in time when we get tired and we want
And we see it going nowhere.
And we see it going nowhere. We feel like it's a waste of time. And then there's an opening for what's a different way that we could do this. And that openness is happening right now. So I kind of see with our work that the rise of Donald Trump and his supporters and that anger that's out there and the vitriol, which is what we actually work to oppose, is actually enhancing our work as well because more people are looking for an alternative.
Yes.
So he's going to help tire some people out in that old
Absolutely.
way of doing things, and they're going to look at what you're doing.
Right.
In the end, we are human, and a human being can limit his own ability to grow. You know, it usually comes from some kind of protection or whatever, but the truth is, if it doesn't fit what I already think, some people can't even literally hear it.
And that may be more intense in a fearful environment, in a fearful
Fear
place.
is key.
Yeah.
It's a key part.
So I would think that most people think that they themselves are pretty reasonable and open-minded, and the problem is those jerks over there. So what would you recommend people do in terms of self-examination and self-assessment to become readier for this work?
I mean, if you think that those people over there are jerks, you know, go take them to lunch. And I think this is something you taught me about, Jeff. When you're at lunch with them, ask them questions and don't say anything else. It is amazing what you can learn by just listening. So curiosity and listening.
And restraining that, yeah, but I hear you, but you're wrong, because somehow you got to be aware of that and just tone it down. Maybe not forever, but for a conversation.
Well, for lunch, you know, for the period of lunch. I have a friend who used to use the rubber band snapping thing, so that every time she wanted to interrupt somebody, she would snap herself to help, you know, form a new habit. I thought that was really cute.
At the core, it's invoking that curiosity about the part you don't understand and having that overcome your need to educate the other about where they're wrong.
Okay, so here's something that I probably say way too often. But do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And so far, our country and what we see in the media is people being right, and it hasn't really bought us what we want as a nation. And so I really think that if we can choose to be happy and give up being right, because that's a booby prize, we'll be a whole lot better culturally.
Well, if you just agree with me, we'll both be happy.
Hey, I live with somebody like that.
What is the immense possibility of living room conversations in the coffee party?
We often refer to living room conversations as the domestic peace initiative, because when we find out that we like each other, I actually want to help you get what you want, and then you'll want to help me get what I want, and then we don't have to fight anymore.
That's pretty simple.
Yeah.
But it would also say, yes, this is never over. It's a process. This is a part of being American. American ingenuity itself is the ability to bring together different points of view and create something greater than anyone imagined. And so I just see us being an engine in that. I'd like to say someday you wouldn't need a coffee party, but there's always going to be questions, and there's always going to be a process, and there's always going to be new people to the conversation. So, but I like the idea of that culture.
Debilyn Molineaux and Jeanene Louden work with the Coffee Party USA and Living Room Conversations. Thank you two for what you're doing, and thanks for coming to tell us about it.
Jeff, thank you so much. We've had a great time.
My pleasure.
Randy! ...30 jaar al zie ik hem vanaf de Maas, over het Wilhelminakanaal, hier de Piershaven binnenkomen. Hè? Vroeger nog jullie pa. En nou heeft hij zijn eigen beurtschip. Jongen. Ik ga de tijd te snel.
Hey schipper, jij lust wel een lekker koekje, denk hè?
Ja.
Of zet ik alweer terug? Hey.
Is oma jou wel lekker aan het verwennen?
Zal eens een lekker bekse koffie inschenken?
Dat is goed.
Hoe is het gegaan?
Ja, niet goed. Nee, ze hadden weer iemand.
Je hebt toch ook altijd pre-ook, hè? Hier is de koffie.
Lekker.
En als je geluk hebt, dan zit er nog een lekker koekje in de trommel.
Nog één? Nee. Schiet gewoon niet op zo. Misschien moet ons Daan maar eens een baantje gaan zoeken.
Zou zijn. Ik wil wel nog solliciteren.
Oh, dus jij denkt hier brugwachter te kunnen worden?
Ja.
Oké. Kom maar mee dan. Als eerste moeten we heel goed kijken of er bolten aan komen. Ja?
Ja, daar.
Oké. Dan gaan we de slagbomen naar beneden doen. Ja, heel goed. Pak de slinger maar. Dan vat jij de laagste kant maar. Oké, dan hoeven we alleen nog maar de brug open te draaien, hè? En? Goed zo. Goed, en nou douwen. Harder. Douwen. Nog harder. Harder douwen. Ach, menneke toch.
Daan? Waar was jij nou? Je mag toch helemaal niet zo ver alleen fietsen?
Ik moest toch werk zoeken? Brugwachter zijn is heel leuk.
Dat dacht ik ook. Zeg maar waar ik moet beginnen.
Aan die kant en dan tegen de klok indraaien. Nou, kom op. Ja, goed zo. Oké, en nou dicht klappen. Gaat voor handen, dicht klappen, dicht klappen. Goed zo. En dan halverwege. Dan moeten goed die twee palen in de gaten houden. Daartussen moeten komen.
That's it for this edition of the program. You can find out more information or send us suggestions at immensepossibilities.org or visit our Facebook page and like and share us there. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Jeff Golden. Until next time, please do what you can do.
Thanks for watching. To learn about tonight's Immense Possibilities, you can watch any of our episodes anytime at immensepossibilities.org.
The SOU House experience is really an opportunity for students to get out of the classroom and engage the community in solving real-world problems.
Houses are about a spirit of adventure. Maybe that's rafting or building a house, but it's also about the adventure of figuring out what comes next.
Get involved, make a difference in the world.
Get connected, join a house.